Welcome to the Eye of the Tiger. Today in the Eye, we'll meet some of the hottest community leaders in Nashville, get the inside scoop from the new powerhouse president of Tennessee State University, Dr. Portia Shields, rub shoulders with Heather Kemp, president of the largest volunteer organization in Nashville, and hear the melodic vision of John Carlos Guerrero, music director of this year's three-time Grammy Award-winning orchestra, the Nashville Symphony. Stay tuned, because when you're in the Eye, you're in the know. Eye of the Tiger starts now. Welcome to the Eye of the Tiger, the hot talk show featuring exciting events in Nashville and beyond. Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to TSU's forensics team, who is out there winning tons of awards, 221 this year and counting. This past weekend, TSU's forensics team was crowned the 2011 state champions in individual events, winning first place in extemporaneous speaking, first place in program of oral interpretation, first place in dramatic duo interpretation, first place in dramatic interpretation, first place in poetry interpretation, and best speaker in the state of Tennessee, Maximilian Cole. That is impressive. Congrats to TSU's forensics team. We are so very proud of you. I'm Kimberly Lamarck, your Hot Topics lead, hosting this segment along with Professor E. Kelly Sanford, Shante Caraballo, and Harold Love. How's everybody doing?
Doing well.
Thank you.
Doing fine.
Good. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
Hey, Harold, I want to give a shout out to you too for being Nashvillian of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a great honor.
It is. We did a lot of good work with the flood.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
And with the weather today, it looks like we might have another flood.
Yes, yes, that's true. That is true.
When you were growing up, all of you, when you were growing up, was your father the primary breadwinner?
For me, that was the case.
Yeah, so did your mother work at all?
Yes.
She did, but your father was the primary breadwinner.
Yes, at a certain time, they both became equal breadwinners, but initially my father was the primary breadwinner.
And what about you, E. Kelly?
Well, I think my mother was. My mother was the educator in the family, and my father, he worked. They both worked as well, but she was the primary breadwinner.
And you?
Well, my mom is a single mother, so she was the primary breadwinner, and very strong woman, served 20 years in the Army, so absolutely the primary breadwinner.
Well, traditionally, the father is the primary breadwinner, you know, but our social norms are changing. We are changing to becoming more and more common, where women are bringing home the paychecks that are larger than their spouses. Almost 1/3 of the working women nationwide now out-earn their husbands. We know for certain that Oprah out-earned Stedman. I mean, this flip in social norms is not common only to Oprah and Stedman, but there are other power wives such as Rachel Ray and her husband John Cusiano, and Sarah Moulton and her husband Bill Adler. Recently, Stedman told Entertainment Tonight that he doesn't mind that Oprah makes more money than him. In fact, he encourages her. Do you think that men in general feel intimidated by their wives being the breadwinner? Do men feel intimidated?
Well, I would certainly say they should not in today's time, but as you so correctly stated, historically and traditionally men have been the breadwinners, but I think in contemporary times one should feel a little bit more comfortable. But then I think as we look at the family in depth and look at that male's role, sometimes the ego might become somewhat of a part of a problem there. And so I hate to say that, but I think it does still happen. There's something, a part of the male ego, where if the woman is dynamic and out there, it would take a strong man not to be able to succumb to the traditional norms of society.
What do you think?
I think it depends on the man. For some men, job title may be more important than paycheck. If they have the title that appears to be one that is indicative of power, then the paycheck might not be the main concern. So we're talking about a situation like with my father. He was a state representative, but the pay was not that good because they really only worked from January to May and got paid. Right. Where my mother was at Tennessee State working. So essentially she made more over the year than he did, but the title state representative is surely more powerful than director of a program. So sometimes the title gives a man that ego boost that he needs and not necessarily the paycheck.
Not just the paycheck. Well, what about the balance in terms of the household chores and things? You know, I mean, we expect, you know, the traditional is the man's the breadwinner and the woman takes care of the household. Sure. Now, if the woman goes to work and she makes less than her husband, somehow she's still expected to take care of the household in terms of laundry and whatever. So I wonder how it affects that when we flip it.
Yeah.
I think that because couples are getting married later on in life, I think that that has a bigger influence, because instead of having a man who has established his career already and a woman who is coming into a home where he has that already set up and she's expected to take on more of the household duties, I think that because they both are career people coming into marriages because they're getting married later on, that has a bigger influence on who takes on household duties, because they're used to doing both things on their own. So the male is used to cooking and cleaning and doing things on his own because he's getting married later, and the female is used to doing both of those things. So they can share those household duties a bit more. I think that that's probably the case more now, at least that I'm finding for, you know, people in this generation.
And I think sociologically, we talk about egalitarian relationships, and exactly what she said. I think there's more mature type of discussion that goes on prior to marriage and the predating types of situations leading to the dating, leading to the agreement to be into the marriage. And then given the economic difference there, I still think they both come home and say we still need to take part in cleaning and taking care of the child and doing the household duties and all of those things in today's contemporary type of a family relationship.
Yeah, I think so, and I think there is more conversation, you know, on the front end than there has been, you know, in previous, historically. But I think sometimes situations occur that flip things that you didn't anticipate. Like we just went through a recession, and so a lot of men lost their jobs, and then the woman became the primary breadwinner. So you can't always foresee those things, and to have that shuffle midstream, you know, can really affect the ego.
I think it depends on also your geographic locations. Give an example. My mother and father had a wood-burning stove in the house, even though we had central heat and air. And so my father thought that it was my role as the man in the house, because I had 4 sisters, to go with him to go chop the wood.
Right.
And that was a given. We chopped the wood. He and I took out the garbage, more sometimes me than him. But it depends on, I think, your geographic location, because you might have some situations where these things are able to be done. You living in the South, you don't have wood-burning stoves, but in other places you have these responsibilities that are relegated to certain genders. And it just depends on where the person comes from also.
Right. Well, women are becoming the alphas of the household at an increasing rate. From 4% in 1970 to 22% in 2007. One of the reasons for this increase is education. In 1970, 20% of wives had more education than their husbands. Fast forward to 2007, the number is 28%. And some of the other reasons include women taking less time out of their career to take care of their children, or women choosing careers that in the past were only available to men. Given that alpha women are increasing at such a fast rate, will this financial shift of power move them out of the equality of their genders?
I don't think so. I think it certainly shifts it in a way, as we have traditionally defined gender and gender roles, if you think in terms of masculinity and femininity. And I think one of the confusions that have always been out there sociologically, where if you're a little bit more communicative on the male side and willing to take care of the household duties at home and take care of the child while she's the engineer or the doctor and is out there more, it might be on the more feminine side. But I think today in this egalitarian type relationship that we're building, we both kind of share in those roles, and I think women really appreciate the man now for being open and communicative and to be able to express themselves and to share in feelings as well.
Well, I think you're also talking in traditional terms, like in a perfect world kind of thing, because a lot of men are really not that open in terms of doing a lot of household chores. I mean, a lot of men still do live in that sort of primitive, I am the man, I am the household, you know, you do this. I mean, on the outside, they do talk a good game, you know, but when you get inside, you know, they really have this feeling that, you know, they should be in charge.
I think it begs the question of what does the woman expect for the man to do? Does she expect him to assume maybe traditional roles of taking out the garbage, or if there's a mouse in the house, he's supposed to catch it, and all these other roles?
Absolutely.
So what does, so what does the woman expect the man to do? And if the man stands up and says, hey, we are all equal, you can take out the garbage as much as I can cook as much as you can catch that mouse as much as I can, then we're going to have some problems, because the woman's going to probably say, well, no, hold on, you're the man. There are certain things that I expect for you to do. And I think that's where we have to have the discussion about, okay, what is it that you expect from me as a man, and then what would I expect from you as a woman in this relationship?
Right. Well, divorce can be the result of our new social norm. A man who feels like his pride is wounded may go out and have an affair as a way of reasserting his masculinity. This action can result in divorce. In a 25-year span, divorce in this country has almost doubled. It went from 9% in 1980 to 17% in 2008. How does a couple get past the financials in order to keep their marriage together? Because financials are the number one reason that people split.
I think by being communicative, it is one of the major problems in breaking up. Divorce is at an all-time high, but I think just working together, knowing that other family members and networks may be able to come in and help out, but to understand that that should not be the driving force in holding a relationship together, to redefining what is valued within the family versus the material things and the non-material. Maybe one needs to size down a little bit. But the issue of who does what in the family could indeed cause some of that divorce rates to go high. I do research in authentic male-female relationships and would say certainly that in that earlier discussion, one should be very clear on how a male might think and also how a female might think, given that she's in a powerful position and so is he. Right. You have two engineers that are married, they have to decide, well, how are we going to, in an equal way, work this thing out? And so I think that's important to do.
I think we're also coming out of a situation where men are expected to know certain things, like the man may be expected to know how much insurance he should buy, the wife should buy, what things he should invest in. But we have women now who are stockbrokers on Wall Street, who are major heads of major insurance companies, and so we have to have an understanding that you know, she might know more than I do about what to invest in.
I think understanding and communication is definitely where it's at. That is the glue to any relationship. We need to flip to commercial. We'll be right back. And when we come back, we'll talk about women, lingerie, and why they are playing football. Stay tuned for more hot topics.